Welcome to Health in Retirement. Each week, we'll discuss some of the health challenges facing retirees. We'll focus on more than just physical health. We'll look at financial health, mental and emotional health, as well as spiritual health. With your host, Rebecca Jones. This is Health in Retirement.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Jones, and welcome back to Health in Retirement. I have a great guest with us here today. We've talked about a lot of different things on the shows in the past, and I wanted to bring someone in to speak on love and relationships. Woo-woo. So I'd like to welcome in Timmy Gibson, relationship coach. Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you so much for coming and joining, all the way from Kansas City, no less.
I know. Yeah. It wasn't bad, though. It was only about 2.5 hours. Not bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Nice book or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Podcast or two.
Yeah, there you go. Plug I hear. So Timmy actually has a podcast.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I spent 30 years as an evangelical pastor, and I retired from that. And during the pandemic, because I'm a wedding officiant, it's kind of my full-time job. Mm-hmm. And that all got shut down, of course.
Oh.
And so I really needed to pivot into some other things to keep me busy, since I wasn't doing the weddings and emceeing. You know, I MC fashion shows. I'm a ring announcer for boxing events, wrestling events, and MMA. So everything with crowds of people.
Right.
and since we couldn't gather, I thought, I'm going to pivot and start doing podcasting. Mm-hmm. And so I started a podcast. It's just called The Timmy Gibson Show. It's on Spotify, Apple, Google. It's everywhere. Mm-hmm. And it started out, we talk about a lot about relationships, but also my journey away from organized religion per se. Mm-hmm. I'm not an anti person at all.
Right.
I mean, I still actually even attend church. Just the dogmatic part of it, I kind of got away from.
That brings us to a great point as we grow and evolve, as we get older. Yeah. We're kind of changing, and maybe you've been divorced, or now that you are spending more time at home, you are spending more time with your partner, and now like things are just different, and you've changed and they've changed, and and now you find that you're single and retired and, looking for love. Yeah. Because now you're a new person. Yeah. So, and then that's maybe where you might come in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I do matchmaking, and I run a Facebook group that I think we have like 4,000 members. And so I do monthly events and monthly like speed dating events.
For people of all ages.
Yeah. Mix. Yep. I do. I have my main core group is the 40 plus.
Okay.
So anywhere from 40 to 80 is kind of the because I'm 53. So
right. I mean, and you consider yourself semi-retired.
It's I live a fairly semi-retired life. I work because I like to work.
Exactly.
But
I think that's where a lot of our listeners probably find themselves too, as well, finding new interest, getting involved, and then maybe now you're single, or maybe you've always been single, and you're still looking. And
I mean, my particular story, I was married 25 years. It was actually a good marriage until the end, when the kids left home and we were just complete strangers, really. And that's a very typical story, and there's a lot more toward the story than that, but that's kind of the highlights. And so I find myself a middle-aged man and single, and living a fairly retired type lifestyle. Everything I do for work is what I want to do.
Right.
I don't have to do the daily grind. I don't have to go to the office. I don't have to report to anybody.
Right.
I do what I want when I want, and it's very enjoyable. I mean, I love my life.
Yeah, and you get to impact people's lives on such a positive and profound level.
Sure.
When we talk about relationships and coaching, what are some things that you're kind of seeing rise up in a common denominator?
A lot of people, So my main focus when I work with clients is to help them work through the jadedness and the bitterness, you know, and the ill will from maybe a toxic marriage, a toxic past, an abusive past. I mean, there's a lot of different things that people can go through, and so part of my kind of my specialty is to help people really be okay with them. You know, I'm a big proponent. It's not so much about finding the right person. It's about being the right person. And once you're in the right place and you're, quote unquote, I really think this is true, and it seems to be true, and even in my personal experience, but when you find yourself, you'll then find the partner, you know?
Well, you know, my biggest thing, if you would have just said that, I would have been like, he took the words right out of my mouth. You have to be what you want.
Oh, 100%.
You know? If you want to attract a certain, you know, type of partner, you're going to have to embody that partner, those characteristics.
Yes.
Yourself.
100%.
Which means loving yourself, forgiving yourself.
Yes.
And, you know, not being angry, not holding on.
Right.
And being open to, you know, letting people change, not holding people, you know, at this rigid thing.
Well, you're exactly right, Rebecca. I always say that if you want to find someone good, then you should be good. If you want someone kind, you should be kind.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, you should exemplify and be a living example of the very kind of the person that you're trying to attract. You know, and so if you're bitter, then you're gonna draw bitterness to you.
Right.
You know.
Well, and you said attract, and then that kind of brings me back to even in the language that we use, even in that sentence, what we want to attract. So if you want to attract something, just like a magnet, you're going to have to be that to attract that.
Yeah.
So
that's probably the biggest thing that I really work on with people is helping them find their center, you know, to live their authentic, true self. And once they get there, once you can get to a place where you're almost fine to be single and you don't need anybody, that's like the perfect time for someone to show up in your life.
Exactly, because I think if you're needing someone, then that totally goes into codependency.
And you make bad choices.
Yeah.
'Cause it's from need.
Exactly. Not like I want you, I want to share a life and not
need it.
Yeah. And that's going to weigh on a person. But we have so much more to talk about with Timmy Gibson, the relationship coach, and we will be right back after this. Hi, and welcome back to Health and Retirement. I'm Rebecca Jones, where we want to give you everything that to put in your toolbox to have the fullest, happiest, and healthy retirement possible. And I think we can't go without saying we need help in our relationships, whether you're single or you're married. I was just talking again to Timmy Gibson on the break, and he is also a couples counselor as well.
Yeah.
And what kind of things are you seeing in couples counseling as people are entering retirement? You know,
one of the things that I've found is that happiness definitely goes up in your later years, especially in a long-term relationship. When the struggles start, it's when often, not always, I mean, there's always people outside of this statistic, but typically relationships will start to struggle when the kids come into the mix, because that throws a wrench into time together.
Right.
It throws a wrench into everything. It's a blessing. I mean, kids are a blessing. I have two adult children. They're the most precious thing in the world to me, of course. But they present a lot of challenges, you know. And especially if the kids themselves are challenging, right? If they're colicky, or if they get into their teenage years and they're crazy, and that can put a real strain on the relationship.
Right.
And if you don't have your financial ducks in order, you know, that can cause a lot of grief.
You know, speaking of financial ducks in order, as you're entering retirement, that has a lot of fear around retirement has to do with money, and there's anxiety, and then that can then cause these relationship issues if they're not agreeing on what they should do, how they should invest, or you know.
Yeah. We talk a lot about opposites attract, and the reality is opposites within traits, like if I'm outgoing and you're introverted, if those kind of things are fine to be opposites attract.
Right.
But when you're talking about values need to line up. You know, if you're a really religious person, I would highly recommend that you are with someone who's religious.
Exactly.
Because you can share that. You know, if you're with someone that's active, it's probably pretty important to be with someone else who would be fairly active too, so that you can share that together.
Right.
You know?
It's kind of like, I'm just now imagining like a foundation being, you know, if one's this way and one's this way, you're not going to have a very stable foundation.
Right.
Those are like the foundations of the relationship, and you kind of need to be able to meet equally on those points.
Yes. And to grow together, I mean, one of the keys that we often talk about in relationships is, growing together. And the reality of growing together is that it takes intentionality. I wouldn't say that to be married long-term or in a committed partnership long-term, that it's not brain surgery. I don't think it's rocket science, but it definitely requires work.
Yes.
And it's an intentionality. I often compare a relationship to like the lawn, your lawn. You have to tend to it or pay someone to tend to it for it to look good. And you can drive down any neighborhood and you can tell who takes care of their lawn and who doesn't.
Don't drive down.
But it's a simple expression. And of course, right, you can miss fertilizing one time. You can not mow one time.
Right.
But if you're consistently not fertilizing, not aerating,
not watering,
not mowing, not watering, it will eventually show up and be very obvious to everybody, right, including yourself. And so the relationships are the same way. There's something that you have to invest in. You have to spend time together, and you have to learn your partner, and your partner has to learn you.
Yeah.
I was on this show, a morning show one time, and there was a famous comedian that was on the show too, and so we were in the green room together, and I went on and did my segment, and I came out, and he's like, "Oh my gosh," he goes, "that was so great." He goes, "I'm in a new relationship, yada, yada, yada." He goes, "In 30 seconds or left, tell me the key to a happy, healthy relationship." And he put me on the spot. And I was like, I said, "I got it. What's important to you should be important to her, and what's important to her should be important to you." Drop the mic. I was like, yes. And he was like, "Ooh, that's interesting." I said, "Yeah, that to me is really at the core of a good relationship, is that I'm as selfless as I possibly can be, and you would be as selfless as you possibly can be, while also being selfish." I mean, that's part of it.
Right.
But that's what really creates a beautiful relationship is selflessness. Selfishness is a relationship killer.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't remember where I heard it, but it was the definition of love was that I have their best intention at heart.
Yeah.
In reverse, they would have my best intention. So no matter what, I'm going to do what is genuinely best for them.
Yeah.
In the end, and
Yes.
which means I can't be selfish.
Right, 100%. People, what's that golden rule? The golden rule is do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Actually, I would say the platinum rule. Not that I can improve on the golden rule, but to take that up a notch, I would say the platinum rule is to do unto others as they would have you do unto them. Because I can't assume
that's so
that,
true.
right? Because I might like a certain thing that they don't like.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't be doing that to them if they don't like it.
I'm like, man, I love shoes, and all I do is buy you shoes all the time. And you're like,
and I don't wear heels. Come on, Rebecca.
Yeah.
So that's really important that you do prefer your partner. But it only works, though, if your partner also prefers you, right? There's a breakdown if one person's always doing the sacrificing and they're always being the one to be the giver, and the other person just takes. Well, after a while, that breaks down. That falls apart.
And unfortunately, that giver a lot of times is the codependent one, because they're trying to be, they give and give and give in order to receive back. And that's a little manipulative.
Yeah.
They just chose the wrong partner.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a personality type. I mean, some people are more giving, more
100%.
generous. Right?
Yeah, I'm not saying everybody who gives is.
Of course. But there's no doubt about it that can be done in a not healthy way. Especially when there's strings attached. And it can be difficult. I would think that I would somewhat be a giver, but also I will hold resentment if I've been giving and
yes,
giving.
And the
I don't
energy
feel I'm
isn't
getting back.
matched.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. A little bit on, if you can share with us, a testimony of your dating coaching, because I know that you help people with that as well.
Yeah. So I remember I had a couple come into my office, and they had been married for, goodness, probably 15, 20 years. And they just were really having a hard time and thinking about getting divorced. Mm-hmm. And so someone said, you got to go see Timmy before you get divorced. Maybe he can help you. Mm-hmm. And because my ways are very unique in how I deal with people. Anyway, so I really put them to the test and told them to turn into each other and really self-sacrifice for 60 days just to see how they felt, to just be as selfless as possible and give to each other. And 60 days later, they came back. We had check-ins. Yeah. And they had called off the divorce. And, and they actually just had another child and just celebrated a big anniversary and sent me all the pictures from it. So that's pretty rewarding.
Thank you so much for being on our show today. And how can people get a hold of you or hear your podcast?
Spotify, anywhere you find a podcast, just Timmy Gibson Show. Mm-hmm. And my website's timmygibson.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we will be right back with our Market Medicare advisor after this.
Now, our health tip of the week.
Welcome to your health tip of the week. Today I want to share with you one of my favorite recipes, chia seed pudding. So first, grab a small container. I usually like to do it serving size, and do 2 tablespoons of chia seed, a half a cup of milk or milk substitute, and then whatever sweetener you choose. I like to use honey, about a tablespoon or so to your sweetness. My favorite way is to add blueberries and some granola, but this is such a versatile recipe. You can make it however you would like. Add bananas, strawberries, and even some different extracts. And then put it in the fridge overnight so you can enjoy it in the morning or for an evening snack. Some of the great benefits of chia seed is it's awesome for heart health, extremely beneficial for gut health, a great source of fiber, and even a great source of omega-3 fatty acids. Don't forget to add chia seed to your diet. And this has been your health tip of the week.
For more health tips, go to healthinretirement.com. This has been your health tip of the week.
Hi, and welcome back to Health and Retirement. I am joined right now with our Market Medicare advisor, Cory Hiebert. Welcome.
Hey, Rebecca.
Again. So we just had a love or relationship expert on, and the ins and outs of how, as you're entering retirement, maybe you're single, maybe you're still married, or maybe in the middle of your retirement you unfortunately lose your partner, and there's just changes that come along as time goes. So as that applies to Medicare, if someone, say they're a couple, should they have maybe the same plan, or what's your suggestion on that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because whenever you typically look at your health insurance, you've always done it together. It's always been you and your spouse being on the same plan through someone's work, and you've made decisions for that benefit the both of you.
Right, exactly.
When it comes to Medicare, you turn into an individual.
Yay.
Right. So yes, even though you guys are still a couple, Medicare, it's individually based on your personal needs. So most of the time, it doesn't benefit us to be on the same plan.
Okay. And so what if, does it affect, should they come in and see you for advice? Maybe they get divorced or they have a loss of a loved one. Do they need to then maybe go in and have their plan looked at, or not really?
So I wouldn't say when it comes to divorce or loss that would instantly trigger needing to look at a different Medicare plan. The thing that would change in that sort of situation, and the one thing that we could benefit from being on the same plan together.
Oh, so there is a benefit.
It would completely depend on which direction you go in Medicare. Because when we look at prescription drug plans and Medicare Advantage plans, those only operate on an individual basis. When we look at Medicare supplements, those can have what we call a household discount. And the household discount is whenever we are living with somebody, not even technically married or together as a couple, but it could just be living together with another senior.
Maybe two sisters or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Living under the same household, we can look at doing a Medicare supplement, and then it would benefit us getting on the same plan because we can see up to a 10% premium discount doing so.
Very interesting. I mean, it did lead me to another question. And maybe you don't know, but I might as well ask. I mean, have you ever had it come up where, like you said, you get a benefit for living in the same household? What if you're living in assisted living with some other people?
Moving into assisted living with other individuals?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I'm just looking around for some discounts.
Yeah, that wouldn't necessarily be constructed to a discount. It would be an at-home address, not a long-term care address that would address the discount.
Hopefully I answered some of the questions that others might be having listening. And so the discount comes when they have that specialized
Medicare
supplement plan.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So whenever we look at Advantage plans or prescription drug plans, those change really on an individual basis. What prescriptions you're taking, what doctors you're seeing as an individual. That's why those plans are fully tailored to you as an individual, and we don't really benefit from being on the same prescription drug plan or Advantage plan.
Okay. So if you have some questions for Medicare, how can they get a hold of you?
Yep, you can call our office at 316-252-8707 and ask to get in touch with an advisor.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I would like to remind all of our listeners again that if you have any questions, please feel free to write into healthandretirement.com and you can list your questions and we would be glad to address those for you. That's what we're here for. And again, I hope you join us next time in Health and Retirement.
This broadcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in the states where it is registered or is excluded or exempt from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by security regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Legal services are offered by Eidelman Law Firm. Tax services offered by Market Tax Services. Market Advisory Group does not provide legal or tax advice. Investment advisory services are offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.